Around the time I was 6, I realized that there was a chance that I wasn't the smartest, most athletic, or even most charismatic kid. But I still believe that during my time here, while I may never be an Einstein, Jordan, or MLK, I'd still manage to be someone of some significance. As the years went by, the people I wanted to be like changed, but my end goals stayed the same. Until one fateful day at age 17. At age 17, I sent out 8 college applications, but I only got back 2 acceptance letters. That's an F- acceptance rate. As you can probably deduce, both were from my backup schools. And I decided to go to the better of my backup schools, UCR, but like anyone going to their backup school, I wasn't happy. Especially because I had a hard time believing that anyone of any significance could come out of a school nicknamed UC Rejects. Luckily for me, it turns out I overreacted. A teen blowing something out of proportion? Unheard of. If you'd ask me now about what I think about my time here at UCR, I'd tell you a different story. A story about how being a big fish in a little pond changed my life for the better. Being a big fish in a little pond entails basically what the idiom it is named after is saying, that as a big fish in a little pond, you'll experience different positives and negatives than as a little fish in a big pond. I stress that there are different positives and negatives because sometimes people tend to have this belief that one situation is intrinsically better than the other, but that's not true. Sure, people differ in which situation they prefer, and because of this, sometimes it's hard to see the other side. When I first came to UCR, I was in that way of thinking. I believed that being a big fish in a little pond would only breed complacency and stagnation. And for most of my first year, I was complacent and stagnant, but not for the reasons I believed in my head. It was because I was stuck in this self-fulfilling prophecy of thinking, hey, the school is garbage, therefore everything I can get from the school is garbage, therefore there's no point in doing anything, and that then reinforced my belief that this school was garbage. I should have been thinking, hey, my situation is shit, but what can I do to improve this shit and make the best of this shit, therefore improving my situation. But I wouldn't have this change of thinking until my second year. My second year is when things started turning around for me. It began with me joining Highlander Gloves at UCR's official boxing club. I wasn't doing much, so I was like, why not learn how to throw a punch? This is the first time I benefited from UCR's nature of being a big fish in a little pond. At the time I joined UCR's official boxing club, we were working out here. That was our primary workout area. That is where we hung the bag. And that was our secondary workout area. And coincidentally, also where my friend Adam got a serious leg injury doing jump squats. This, as you can probably tell, this wasn't a proper boxing club, but I still loved it. And I think I can boil this down to 2 main reasons. First, perhaps due to the sketchy area we practiced in, there weren't a lot of consistent members. If I remember correctly, there were only about 4 at the time I joined. That seems like something that would be a negative, but because of that, I got a lot more attention. I was given a lot more one-on-one time that I wouldn't have gotten at a normal club or gym. The small amount of members also helped speed up the bonding experience. Since there was such a small amount of us, we were kind of forced to interact with each other, which led to us becoming friends much faster. This quickly led me to develop a love for the club and by extension the sport. Which brings me to my first positive trait of the little pond, in that a little pond tends to be much more nurturing than the bigger pond. This is because a little pond tends to be less competitive and therefore a much more relaxed and easier to get into environment. It also allows for a more homogeneous type of environment because when there are such a small amount of people, you're kind of forced to interact with what you can interact with. Meanwhile, if I'd gone to a bigger club or gym, I would have had a different story. First of all, I wouldn't have been given any precedence since at the time I joined the club, I was kind of not experienced. Didn't have any drive really, and I guess I had a little cardio conditioning. Therefore, I wouldn't have gotten any attention until I showed some promise, which for someone without the initial love for the sport may have taken like months to do. Then, to add to my hypothetical woes, there probably would have been a lot more people in this more established club or gym, which isn't a bad thing, but it wouldn't have sped up the bonding process like the smaller club did. And while a bigger club or gym would have more resources, none of this would have mattered because I probably would have quit before I developed any love for the sport. The second benefit is that at the time I joined the club, the cabinet only had 2 out of 5 positions filled. This is something that really seems like a negative, but it worked out for me. When I joined the club, I wasn't exactly shy, but I wasn't exactly outgoing enough to be like, hey, your club's lacking in that cabinet, you should give me a position. Luckily for me, they offered me the position, so it worked out. Secondly, there will probably be a long line of other passionate people waiting to take up these positions as soon as they open. And for someone like me who wasn't outspoken enough to go grab a position, there probably would have been no space for me. And so I got a position that I would have normally gotten otherwise. The club was probably the best thing that happened to me since I joined the school. But I still had a negative view of the school. And that will continue to be that way until I think my 3rd year, where I talked to my friend here. We were waiting for a bus, like a 10 p.m. bus, I don't know. And we were just, talking about random shit, I guess. What the fuck? And we talked until we came to the subject of the school. I gave him the spiel that, oh hey, UCR is a shit backup school. But he told me something that was kind of unheard of for a student that goes to UCR. He told me that UCR is a good school because sometimes it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than it is to be a little fish in a big pond. And that's when it kind of all clicked for me, because I realized at that point that I got all these opportunities that I wouldn't have gotten at a different school where I would have been a little fish in a big pond. But I didn't fully understand how blessed I was to go to this school until my 4th year when I read the story of Caroline Sachs, which I'll cover in another video. If this cutoff seems abrupt, that's because it is. In its previous state, this video sat at 20 minutes long, and no one on the internet is going to watch a 20-minute video. Yeah, so I guess I'll see you in a month or 2.